Well, we want to welcome everybody today to Mom and Dad Talks, where our favorite two people are Mom and Dad. And as you can see, Mom and Dad are not here. They are ministering down at the waterfront in Niles. They happened to, last week, they were doing the same thing and happened to be part of the cannabis festival there at Niles. Did that come out wrong? Okay, let me explain everybody real quick. So this Mom and Dad are not smoking weed or anything like that. We know Mom had a heart attack. So what happened is they happened to be ministering with their church at the waterfront, and what ended up happening was they happened to have a cannabis festival at one of the days they're ministering. Everybody say, yeah, right. However, they were successful in getting a couple souls from what they told me. So you know what? We're just gonna move on from this. This is just not gonna go well. They're good Christians people. They don't do that kind of stuff there. But anyway, you know what? This has just gone from bad to worse. So let's just get to the subject today. We got our special guest today, Carlin Alford. Carlin, welcome to the show again.
Yeah, what's up, man? Hey, first of all, you're assuming that Christians don't use cannabis. Oh, wait, that's a subject for another day.
Yeah,
Ask parents when they get back. Check them out when they get back.
I'm sure they're gonna get a lot of calls and be like, "What's going on there?" You know, got a heart attack.
If they're real happy when they get back from minister, you're like, "Hey, son, it's all good."
She was a little different last week. Maybe the residue might have gotten on her or something. I don't know, but oh Lord, this is just,
second hand.
Yeah. This is just, oh my, having too much fun with this one. That has to be a subject for.
You got to do that. You got to cover it. Your special guest, Mom and Dad.
Yeah. Explain to us what happened at the cannabis festival, Mom and Dad, while you were spreading the gospel. What kind of gospel are you spreading? I mean, this is just horrible. I'm making fun of my parents at their expense at a situation that they just happened. You can't
happened to be there. Yeah, it's all good, man.
You can't make this stuff up at the first annual
Great
cannabis festival. I'm sorry. Okay, let's get to our subject. Let me try to get myself together on this one. Sorry about that, Carlin.
Hey, man, this is good for me.
All right. So anyway, listeners, sorry I took you like way away from our subject. We actually have a real good subject today, and it's talking about the Olympic protest. And you have a lot of people choosing different sides on it and everything. But I brought Mr. Alford on because he has a different perspective that a lot of people don't really understand. I mean, so you know what? At this point in time, Carlin, I'm just going to turn it over to you so you can expound on your thoughts on the protest and what it means.
Yeah. So what I always like to do is I've been having a lot of these conversations on social media. A lot of people know my involvement with sports, know my passion for sports, especially in the Christian setting. What is the Christian athlete supposed to do in day and time when sports is front and center with everything, right? So a couple of baselines that I set. Number one is that I don't go off of my own opinion. I have strong opinions about everything, but I don't go off of my opinion when making a quote unquote judgment. I know people say, "Oh, we shouldn't judge." We judge all the time. We're judging right now. We judged your parents for being at a cannabis festival, right? Okay. So number one, I do research, right? So to that end, I've actually talked to professional athletes who have either taken a knee or raised a fist or tried to raise awareness about the some of the issues that we still have going on in this greatest country on earth, right? Right. So I've actually talked to it, and what I found out is that. And some of the people I've been discussing with who have a counter opinion to what the athletes are saying is that they've never even spoken to a professional athlete, let alone spoken to them about this subject, let alone listen to what they've actually had to say about this subject, right? So their opinion is going off of feeling alone, right? And that's not a judgment, that's fact, right? Now, unless you've actually spoken to an athlete who has actually had some sort of raising awareness moment, that's what I call it, instead of necessarily a protest, then you're really just left to try and figure it out on your own, right?
Very scary.
So I didn't want to do that. I do work with the local NFLPA, that's the National Football League Players Association here in Nashville, the local chapter. It is mostly made up of guys who've retired. We've tried to get some of the current athletes to come to the meetings and join in. That's a struggle. They're busy and trying to stay on the squad, right? So that's just the nature of the beast. But I have talked to active NFL players. I've talked to an active MLB player.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to somebody who's currently in Tokyo, who wasn't going to, do any kind of display, but totally supported it. Okay. So that's my baseline. I've done the research as far as that's concerned.
Mm-hmm.
There is a thread. There's a boilerplate. There's a phrase that starts this whole thing off, and I've seen it time and time again on social media, which is they hate America.
Yeah.
Why do they hate America? If you hate America, get out. If you hate America, why are you here? You know what I mean? If you hate America, why are you representing us on the Olympic team? Right? And they're angry, for their reasons. People who say that. And this is where I always start. I've never met an American who hates America.
Okay.
Never. Right. I've never met an American who has said, I hate America.
Okay.
So I've never met an American that has never said that. I've never met a professional athlete that has never said that.
Okay.
Right? Now, we try to keep a spiritual focus on things. Right? There is an equivalent to this.
Okay.
God hates the sin, but loves the sinner.
Okay.
Right? So we have to be able to take our feelings out of it, our emotions out of it for just a second to get to the common denominator, right? If the people who are trying to raise awareness about something are not saying that they hate America, what is it that they're actually trying to say? It is saying that we live in the greatest country on earth. And we stand for certain things that we say are going on for everyone. Liberty and justice for all.
Ooh, okay.
Right? How am I supposed to sit here in good conscience and look my kids in the face and tell them that there's truly liberty and justice for all, when here in Nashville, Officer Delkey, who killed Daniel Hambrick, a young man I knew personally, by blowing the back of his head off, right? When he was running away from police, unarmed, right? And got indicted and was recently sentenced within the last month and plea dealed down to 3 years. How can I say that that's justice? Like, we went through the system, we went through the process, and that was still the result. That's not justice, right? And so we've tried it many ways to tell you all that there's a problem.
Right.
And we need to fix it. And so now we're at a point where we're done, going through the system. We did it. We did what we were supposed to do, and we still don't have justice. So now we do. We need more people. And how do we do that? We need to raise awareness. How do you raise awareness? Here in America, the best way to do it is a protest. And I know people do, that's not the best way. There's a better way to do it. Yet they don't have a suggestion when they say that. Right. And secondly, a protest is not meant to make you feel comfortable. Correct. It's not a protest if you feel comfortable. Correct. So, like, if we're standing on the podium, these people, if you've ever seen I've seen an Olympic athlete up close trade their entire first half of their life so that they can be the best in the world at something, or try to be the best in the world at something for 15 seconds. And then they get there and it is their time to shine, and they will be known in this moment in history forever. And they're willing to trade it to raise awareness for one thing. And we don't look at it that way. We don't look at it and go, my goodness, this person has sweat and trained and sacrificed all the way up to this point, and they're willing to trade it for a second to raise awareness about something. Maybe I should listen. Maybe I should give consideration to what it is they're trying to raise awareness about, that they're willing to trade their moment, not America's moment, because they're still wearing America's colors. They're still saying, go USA. They're still on the Olympic team. They're still coming back to America and proudly going to say, I am an American. But they're also going to say, and we got some work to do. And the problem is that people go, well, that's not the place and time for it. And we all know by now, Colin Kaepernick is not even a controversial figure, right? 5 years later, we're like, even the NFL was like, you know what, he was right. He wasn't protesting the flag. He was protesting. He was protesting what's going on underneath it. Right. Right. Still a proud American. And I'll give a break. I know I've been talking nonstop, but I'll give a break here in just a second when I say this. when I have these conversations, I tell people that, well, what about our military? It disrespects our military. I come from a military family.
Mm-hmm.
My father served in
military
Korea.
family.
Yeah, my father served in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
My step granddad was in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Great granddad was, I've tracked it all the way back to the Revolutionary War. Our family, Todd, has fought in every American war and represented the United States in every American war, all the way back to the Revolutionary War.
Right.
So you can't sit here and say, well, it dishonors our military when we don't feel that way. You don't own America. We all do.
Right.
Right. And so my father represented this country without the protected right to vote.
Right.
Let that sink in. What's more patriotic than going and fighting in another country for our freedoms when you don't even have all of the rights that are supposed to? I am the first person. I'll beat you by 3 months. I'm the first person born in our family with the protected right to vote. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
We're the first generation in our family that was even born on American soil with the protected right to vote. Yet our family's been here for almost 400 years.
True.
So you can't sit here and tell me that it's disrespectful to try and raise awareness about something we've been telling you about for years and years and years and years, and you're not listening, right? So silent, peaceful protest. You love Martin Luther King now. They hated him. 85% of the people polled in 1965 thought he's a troublemaker. You love Rosa Parks now, but they thought that she was an uppity, for not giving up her seat back then.
Right.
So history ends up being on the side of peaceful protest always. What we're trying to do is help people be on the right side of history right now. So one, they don't hate America. They hate what's happening to Americans. I'm an American. If you don't hate what's happening to me, are you truly patriotic?
Ooh.
And I told somebody like this. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. We have the lowest unemployment rate in America. Yet 18% of our population lives at or below the poverty line.
Have mercy.
That means 1 in 5 people who are working can't make ends meet. If we can't do it here, where can we do it? And most of those people are people of color. So you want to sit here and tell me, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, just work hard. These people are working double shifts, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, can't make ends meet. In a place where if you want to work, you can work. So they are working. And yet and still, we don't see a problem with that because our patriotism is uninterrupted. Oh, we're the greatest country on earth. Yes, we are. Right? I'm the greatest husband on earth, but I still got problems.
We all do, Carlin. We all do.
I still got stuff I got to work on. How is that not the concept that we can't? Is because certain groups of people think they own the military, they think they own America, and they think they own patriotism. And I would tell you, I'm going to end with this. If you are a true patriot, you're able to love this country when it doesn't love you back. True. That is a true patriot.
Wow. You know what? I just dropped the mic several moments there, Mr. Alford. And I'm thinking back, it is in the Constitution you have the right to peacefully protest. Yeah. Peacefully protest. And yet and still, when people are not trying to listen or don't want to change things because they want to feel uncomfortable, and by your silence, just like in slavery, right? Oh, look at them. They're singing in the fields. They like slavery. No, they didn't. They were singing code words to get out of slavery, folk.
Yeah.
So as long as someone's silent or agrees with the wrong thought, it justifies, let's keep it going. So then what other way do they have? Now, we saw on January 6th, I don't think that was the proper way, in my opinion, to protest. I don't believe in rioting. Just don't. But if I make you feel comfortable, you gotta understand it, comfortable with things are going wrong in your state, and you don't do anything about it to correct it on your end or whatever end you're in, then we got a problem here. Because unfortunately, it turns into violence when people are not trying to make things better, even though they know it's wrong. And I think that that's the problem is if you don't think it's wrong to kill an innocent person, forget color. If you just think that's okay to kill innocent people just because you feel threatened. No weapons, no nothing. See, that's the hard part that people are trying not to look at. These people had no weapons, no probable cause. All it was because you look the description of somebody I think is evil, I can just kill you and you excuse me, blow your head off, and it's terrible that someone has to lose their lives simply because of this. And we have police officers on this show, just to let everybody know, and they agree with me. And the majority of our family, we have police officers, and they agree with us.
We're related to cops.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
So I talk to cops. I support cops. We're not even anti-cop. What we're saying is I'm anti-bad people. And bad people do not have positions in those kind of positions where they can take and destroy lives just because they feel like because they have a bad day.
Yeah, Todd, I used to, for 12 years, I lived down the street from the police training academy here in Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I got to know a lot of them, and some of my friends are training officers. Mm-hmm. Two of them are SWAT training officers, and one is an advanced ops, mm-hmm. right? These guys are some bad dudes. Yeah. Well, lots of Starbucks conversations because Starbucks down the street. And one day I just asked, one of the training guys, I said, look, man, how many times have you had to kill somebody? I mean, how's it weigh on your mind? Mm-hmm. He looked at me, he was like, I've never had to kill anybody. He said, now, if forced to do so, I have to make peace with God ahead of time. That every bullet that I fire is one that is righteous. That's what he said to me. And he said that he's like, and all this stuff about everything happens in a split second and it's a trigger for you. He's like, they're right. It does. He said, but you walk into it knowing that. Yes. And so you also walk into it going with the idea of, I'm going to preserve life. I say I'm going to lay down my life for somebody else if I have to. Mm-hmm. He's like, then I don't go in with this gunslinger mentality of I'm going to kill you first. Right. I'm going to try and preserve your life first, even if you're a criminal, so I can bring you to justice because we have a system. Mm-hmm. We say that there's a system. We need to use it. Mm-hmm. My job only as a cop is to pursue, subdue, and bring to justice. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's all I'm called to do. I'm not called to make life and death decisions as far as whether you're going to live or die. Now, get it. Sometimes that's forced, but it's not forced nearly as many times as people like to think it is. Mm-hmm. Because these training officers told me, of the three that I talked to, only one had killed a person before. And he said that was a drug shootout where he was outmanned. It was three guys shooting at him, and he was shooting back until his support got there. The other two guys said, I've been in many a life and death situation. He said, but more times than not, the whole idea of me going in and preserving life has allowed me to understand that that's my mentality that has to start, that where we've got to get back to protect and serve. He said, I would even throw in there preserve. And that came directly from a cop. And Carlin, I've heard the same thing from cops on my end. Instead of trying to, even though someone deserved to probably get their head smashed into the concrete because they threatened, his whole idea was, let me knock him to the ground on think about this, in grass and subdue him so he doesn't get hurt as bad, even though he deserved it. Yeah. That's the kind of cops we need. We don't need those guys out there thinking, you know what, you deserve and go off, because frankly, let's just say we have plenty of them. We have plenty of those good cops. I mean, the guys that I know, there's some bad dudes, man. And I feel 100% safe. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, when I'm around them, I'm like, look, criminals are in for a rough time. They try to come here. These dudes are some bad dudes, and I love them. I love them for it. And I support them to the end. What we're talking about is when you don't treat a human like a human. Correct. Right. And that's what we got to get rid of. And that's what these Olympic protests are about. Humanity. Mm-hmm. Humanity. We're human. Mm-hmm. Right. Like you're not listening to us. You're sitting at home and you're in your easy chair with your remote, and you're going, God bless America. We love America. You're good Americans. We got gold. We want gold. Right. And Simone Biles just recently said, that's another subject. She just said, I didn't realize until I pulled out and the support that I got from people for pulling out that I was more than just an Olympic athlete. Mm-hmm. Here we have the most decorated gymnast of all time. And she didn't even know that she was more than a gymnast, that she's a human being. And when we get to that, We won't have a problem with people standing up and going, "Can you please look at me as a human?" We tried other ways. Can you please look at me as a human? Right? I know it's uncomfortable for you right now, but guess what? I still got the gold medal for you. Yay, America. Right? We still live in the greatest country on earth. Mm-hmm. I'm going back to Cleveland when I get back home. Right? Mm-hmm. But can you please look at me as a human? And that's what they want. And I've talked to them. That's what they want.
And I think that's the problem, because you have a group of people out there, unfortunately, small group, but they're influential, that think we're not human. And we're all human. We're in the human race. And Carlin, do you want to say anything else before we close? Because we're going to have to bring you back on for some more discussion, because this is not enough time.
Yeah, I do want to say this. This is not all inclusive, mm-hmm. right? There are people that abuse the rights that we have. There are people that abuse the First Amendment. There is such a thing as abuse of the First Amendment, correct. Right? Yes. There is there just like there's abuse of the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. Another subject, right? But the caveat is that it's not all inclusive. Not all protest is righteous. Right. Not all protest. But I will tell you this: the ones that raise awareness about humanity, God said, "What have you done to the least of these? You have done to me." Mm-hmm. Right? We've got to get to the lowest common denominator, not be afraid of them, and not be afraid that they're different than us, and say, "I care about your humanity." Yes. And Carlin, when you care about humanity, you care about God's people. When you stop caring about humanity, well, that's another subject for another time. Mr. Alford. This is the last thing that I'm going to say, though. Yeah, go ahead. It does open up a huge door for some of our friends that we went to school with, who have a very strong line, a very political strong line about a subject. I'm not even going to say what the subject is. But when we say we're talking about humanity, I'm just going to say this. God even says, how can you love your brother, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't love your neighbor as yourself. Ooh. Don't talk to me about somebody you've never met before you can even tell me and convince me that you're convinced about who's already here. Well, great discussion, man. Thank you, Mr. Alford, for coming on Mom and Dad Talk. We're going to have you on again, of course, residential expert there. And thank you so much for coming on today. Hopefully at some point, maybe next week or the week after, when Mom and Dad are done with their spreading of the gospel, we'll call it, they'll be back on here. I know in the month of August they're going out to minister to people there and saving humanity, as Carlin says, to make a difference in the world. So anyway, until we meet again there, thank you for coming again for Mom and Dad Talks, and thank you, Mr. Alford, for enlightening us today on a different perspective on the Olympic protest. Have a blessed day, everybody.